and I'm going to mute myself as well.
Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting in just a minute. Thank you, everyone, for joining. So I'd like to welcome everyone for joining, especially our valued clients. Thank you, everyone, to your ongoing support. I really hope that we find this webinar helpful this morning. I'm Stephen Monk. I'm the CEO of Engage Squared. I'm really happy to be here with our wonderful guests from Sitecore and some of the members of our change and adoption team as well. Obviously, this is a bit of a different topic than our normal topics, which tend to be focused more around modern workplace technologies and what we do with Microsoft and Microsoft 365. But we're really excited to be working more closely with Sitecore at the moment. We work with a lot of customers, in particular marketing teams in large organizations, and they're increasingly asking us, how do we work more effectively with a range of different assets, and how do we integrate some of the great new modern workplace technologies that we've got with some of the more customer-facing assets and interactions and activities that we need to undertake. So we're really excited to be able to show you today some more about Sitecore Content Hub and talk a little bit about how our customers are using this to promote their marketing materials, to join up their employee experience and productivity tools with their marketing and digital teams to simplify the way in which they can manage their digital assets and hook that into their marketing materials and their marketing campaigns. So really great. I'm a techie. I love the way that Sitecore Content Hub is hooked together using Microsoft Azure integrated into the stack so that we can hook it in with the existing modern workplace tools that we love to use using Microsoft Teams and other tools. So really excited to be able to talk today through the technology. Very happy to be joined by Victoria, who will run through Content Hub, provide us with a bit of an overview of the Content Hub capabilities, and then Mike will jump into a product demo and talk more about the technical sides and also how you can integrate this into your workflow. And finally, and obviously not the least important bit, adoption, how we can really focus on integrating this into your workflow, changing the way that you work and bringing some of that change and adoption speciality that we've applied for many years in the modern workplace space to simplify and streamline the way in which you can do digital marketing. So I'll hand over in a second to Victoria. Probably two things worth noting. We'll loop back at the end to provide a bit of a wrap up and also have a bit of a questions and answers session. We're using Microsoft Teams live meetings for the session today, and there's a really great question and answer feature. So please feel free to ask questions as we go through the session today. We'll make sure that there's time for Victoria, Mike and Claudia to answer questions as we're going through. All right, so without further ado, hand over to Victoria, who can give us a bit of an overview of Content Hub.
Hello, I'm hoping you can all see my screen okay. My name is Vicky Benucic and I'm the APJ Content Hub Specialist at Sitecore. It's a privilege to be talking to you today about the Content Hub platform, but before I do, let me just tell you a little bit about our history. I think we're just getting there now. hopefully we're sharing that screen to you. Before we joined the Sitecore family, we were known as Style Labs. In 2001, Style Labs...
Excuse me, Vicky, I'm just going to interrupt. You haven't shared your screen yet.
Oh, silly me. Let me just do that right now. Great. So a bit of our history. In 2001, we started operating not as a software provider, but as a company called Style Lab that was an online production house, providing back office marketing for global organisations. In our customers like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola, it was obvious that what was affecting their ability to produce effective campaign and customer communication across their increasing channels was disjointed systems and an inability to be able to collaborate effectively. Out of necessity, Content Hub was created to provide that one unified content marketing platform to help solve these challenges. As a result, we've grown quite large, and worldwide we've been utilised by organisations like Google, Unilever, Hilton, and locally you'll hear Cochlear, Coates Hire, as well as some government and tourism organisations as well. Every company, regardless the industry, has a product to sell. As marketers, regardless of how good our product is, how great our designers, engineers, and product managers are, we know that experience around our product is what is important, and that experience beats product 2 to 1. And as marketers, we know that's what we have control over. The most successful companies in the world do not sell the cheapest products. Price is important to position a product. And we know as marketers, experience beats price 8 to 1. Great experiences are made up of 2 things. They're both personal and they're personalised. They're personalised in a way that they shows you know who I am, and personal in a way that shows that you know what I care about. It yields an emotional connection, creating this bond between brand and customer, which really leads to a competitive advantage. So let me tell you about a great global powerhouse, Pepsi, who wanted to personalise their Pepsi Generation campaign for China. They joined forces with Chinese superstars to bring the Pepsi Generation message to the Chinese market. It was a great campaign, but something got lost in translation. Apparently, the English and Chinese language aren't a perfect fit when translations are done, and so Pepsi's cool slogan, when translated to Mandarin, said something like, "Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave." It was so bad, even if it were a Halloween promo, the Chinese customers still wouldn't get a Pepsi unless it's free. Let me just take a sip and let you. So it's a brilliant idea. The imagery was fantastic, spot on for the market, but all aspects of the campaign needed to be on point, including the localization. A really great example just recently is Jetstar became one of our customers, and they approached Sitecore because they knew they were extending globally and they needed to have the right tools in place to be able to approach markets like Japan, which would be challenging because of the nuances involved with localization. So what is the challenge of delivering an experience that connects? What we've seen is implementing personalization and, very importantly, delivering these experiences at scale. And when I mean at scale, we're talking about across all channels, across all geos, for all audiences, and in sometimes less than ideal situations as we find ourselves today, when we're no longer together within the one organisation, and we're working from home. So implementing personalisation and delivering at scale require huge volumes of content that's relevant, engaging and personalised. However, this is a challenge because organisations use multiple tools, disjointed systems, convoluted processes that really don't provide any ability to collaborate seamlessly and efficiently. And what we call it at Sitecore is the content challenge. But my personal favourite term is the Wild West of content marketing. So it's really not surprising that 74% of us struggle to produce the volume and variety of content needed to drive personalisation. And even though we spend 40% of our budget, as we found through various polls, and a lot of our time creating that content. So in this type of environment, imagine the cost of rebranding. Rebranding is the most horrific and most expensive thing a company has to do. Updating catalogues, tags, signage, brochures and ads. And this brings me to another story about Gap. We all know and love Gap for their comfortable clothes, and it has a well-known logo. However, a while ago, they wanted to become more modern, so they launched the new Gap logo. What they ended up doing was probably breaking the record for the shortest logo being officially used ever. The change made their customers feel a loss of connection with their beloved brand. And so just after 6 days, Gap quickly had to put their old logo back into place. So the question that I'll ask you is, if you had to rebrand, how long would it take? Recently, one of the customers I was talking to actually said it currently takes them 2 years just to rebrand. Now, that's just not workable or competitive with the speed things change in today's marketing. What if instead, as a marketer, I was able to change and update my brand and all the associated content with a press of a button? And this would automatically update all my brand everywhere you see it, taking the entire effort away from rebranding. Now, that's a force multiplier like you've never seen. So how do brands achieve this experience they connect? And be able to do that with speed that's required by today's marketplace. With one unified platform, they're able to build the right content. They are then able to deliver it through to the right channels at the right time in a personalised manner. And that can then be used to drive the outcomes that they need. They are then able to capture that data and measure the effectiveness of both the images and their content, and be able to use that information to really drive future content creation, delivery and presentation. Now, with Sitecore Content Hub, marketers can own that entire content management and delivery lifecycle, from planning right through to publishing across all the channels. It provides this single unified platform, providing digital asset management for your rich assets, with digital rights management to ensure that you are approved to provide those assets, marketing resource management to make sure we hit our deadlines and our time to market really is on target, and product content management to ensure that the messaging that's localized, that's personalized, is reaching the target audience. This end-to-end content management enables you to deliver a great experience, connect your customers with your brands, and really gain a competitive advantage. I'll just end on a slide of some real benefits our customers have found in utilising a solution like this. Of course, I won't go through them. It is for your information, but I think it's a really great way of now handing over to Mick to discuss the solution in a bit more detail than what I have just now. So I'll hand over to you, Mick.
Thanks, Vicky. So I'm Mick. I'm a senior solutions consultant here at Sitecore. And what I'm going to do today is just take you through a bit of a journey around Sitecore Content Hub. We're going to go through a couple of key aspects of Content Hub, being the content marketing platform and the digital asset management capabilities. So just shared my screen with you now. You'll be able to see my dashboard, which is effectively the page that any user who would come into Content Hub would see as their starting entry point. So through our little journey today, we're going to sort of take upon a couple of different roles. We're going to be a content marketer, content strategist, a bit of a content author, and we're also going to be a user who's going to be looking for specific assets in the digital asset management portion of Content Hub as well. So really giving you a sense of how quick and easy it is to start coming into a central place to manage all of your content, all of your assets on a day-to-day level, whether that's within the team in your organization, whether that's over the wider organization that you work within. And then we'll also touch upon how we can start leveraging other tool sets within the Microsoft ecosystem, something like Microsoft Teams, which most of us use on a day-to-day basis to just do our ongoing chat communications, passing information back and forth, just to see how that can all align really quickly and easily with something like Content Hub. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to have a look at the content marketing platform side of Content Hub. So if I'm a content author or a content strategist and I need to start understanding where all my content is living, what's actually happening in the wider organization, I can come into a calendar view to start with. And with my calendar view, I'm able to then visualize all of the content that might be happening that's scheduled to publish in a particular month. I can also look at that on a day or a week level as well, just to see how much content we're actually producing at the time, making sure that there's alignment, that we're not publishing things in a too short a gap, stretching things out. It's a really great quick tool to give you that visual representation. Another visualization tool that we can leverage in here as well as a marketer or a strategist is our strategy view. And with our strategy view, we're able then to look at all of our content in a couple of different lights. So the first view here that we can look at is I can actually see all of my different audiences that I've logged into Content Hub. So I'm specifically targeting on-the-go style audiences, variety seekers, sporty fitness type people. These audiences can be whatever matches your content strategy within your organization, and you can have as many of these as you like. So on the left-hand side here, I've got all my different content types that I have available to create. So whether that's I'm creating blog content, social media content, white papers, recipes, you can have as many different types of content as you need within the system as well. So from this visual view here, I can start seeing where I may or may not be targeting specific audiences against different content types. From a strategy perspective, it's really handy then to see where my gaps are, where I need to start aligning new content creation processes within my team to get different content writers, those sorts of things within my process. I can also flip this view around as well, where I can start then looking at where I'm delivering that content to all of my different channels. So instead of seeing my audiences at the top of the list here, I can now display that as my channels. So I can see that I'm spending a lot of time putting content out on my Facebook channel. I haven't spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, same with Instagram, Twitter, those sorts of things. So those channels again are channels that you would put into the system to match the channels that you deliver to your audiences to give you that really holistic view of how content is being created within your wider organization. So another aspect here that we'll touch on too is the idea of a campaign. So campaign is something that people that are doing content and strategists will be quite familiar with, is that idea of setting up an ongoing campaign. It might run for a week, it might run for a number of months. And within that campaign, you're going to start aligning a group of or a set of content around that, whether that's content, images, assets, those sorts of things. So we're really interested in this Get Fit in 2020 campaign. It's something that we've started at the beginning of the year. So clicking through into our Get Fit in 2020 campaign, we can start on our timeline view. We can see we've got a few pieces of content that are lined up for June. We can also look at that from something like the month view. So again, this is just the content that's available within Content Hub specifically for this campaign that's being aligned or that's been published in June or to be published coming up in future as well. You can see on the sidebar here as well is where I'm able to start filtering. So if I just wanted to see against specific content types, whether I would like to filter any of this view based off what particular life cycle status it's in. So is this content that's currently being worked on? Is it in its final approval state that's been published? Or is it in the ongoing draft state as well? These are all searching capabilities for you as a team to actually find content that you may have already worked on before that might have existed previously that you might just need to duplicate and change. Localization is also another feature of Content Hub where you can localize all of that content from a multilingual perspective, which is something that Vicky touched on previously, which you know is definitely a common theme for a lot of organizations that do have to work their content into different markets as well. If we click in the details tab here, this is where we can just keep some metadata about that specific campaign as well. So where we want to keep the name of the campaign, the dates that talk about that a campaign is running for, what type of campaign is it. You can see that we're trying to target this as a specific omni-channel campaign, and we're just doing this as an English localization target as well. We've got our primary image that we've loaded up here into the system, so we can align that to our campaign as a start entry point. So as part of our strategy and what we've looked at is we want to actually start up a new blog post. We don't really have a lot of content in blog around our on the go or inspirational type information. So what we're going to do is before we go ahead and create our campaign around inspiration, is we need to see whether there's any assets in the DAM that might align to that we can leverage in our particular content that we're going to create. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip over into the assets section of Content Hub. And this is where people that have access into Content Hub can actually start searching and finding any of the assets that have been published inside of Content Hub. So you can see I've got quite a rich set of content here inside of Content Hub. I could do a keyword search straight away if I needed to try and search against any of the metadata that's associated with my assets. If I've uploaded any documents or you know, whether that's Word, PDF, PowerPoint documents, we'll index all of the content inside of there as well automatically. So we will search through all of that. So making it easy for you in your team, in your organization to actually find the assets that you're looking for. We're trying to make that as simple as possible for you. On that theme is findability as well. On the left here, we've got our different facets. So this is where we can set our taxonomies of all of our different assets that we have in the system, whether we want to align those based on brand, based on specific asset types, whether they're aligned to specific tags. If we have products within our organization as well, we can align to products within there as well. These taxonomies can be completely configured by you. You can add these in to make sense of what your strategy needs to be. So we're looking specifically for some inspirational assets. So let's just type in inspiration, and yep, we don't have any assets, funnily enough. So what we need to do is maybe go ahead and actually add some assets into the system. So I'm going to go ahead and just upload a couple of assets that I have on hand that I think are going to be relevant for my blog post that I'm going to put forward. So you can see here where I've come into my create space. This is a space just for me to upload my assets to begin with. This really kicks off the entry point of the asset workflow of getting those assets through a review and a publish process to be made available in the DAM. So I'm going to click and upload my files here. I've got a couple on my computer that I'm just going to drag and drop in. And we've got a couple of assets that we've now pushed in to upload. So we've got our assets, they're sitting in my create space now. Something that we see as a big challenge for a lot of organizations is how do you actually start assigning the information to the asset? So we know that we've got a title or a file name on the asset, but what about adding the relevant information to it, whether that's descriptions, whether we need to align it against different types, putting all our taxonomy information into those assets is a common challenge, especially when you're working in scale with a lot of those particular assets as well. So what we can do is we can highlight those assets, one or more. We could click on our little edit in table button here, and we'll come to a Excel spreadsheet style view. And this is where we can start interacting with all of that data in a really quick and efficient way. So if I need to click on one of these as an asset type, I've got all of my different asset types available to me here, and I'm going to just align these as a social media asset. If I then want to apply that to all of the other assets that I may have uploaded, and I've got another one here, I can just drag that cell down and apply to my other assets as I need to. And then I can just continue my process. If I need to add it to a specific brand that I've configured in the system, whether I need to add any tags into there as well, you can do all of that within Content Hub too. So we're going to leave the tags alone for now. We're just going to save and close that. So we've uploaded our assets. We have added some metadata to it. We're ready to actually submit this for approval, to have maybe someone come and collaborate on it, make some adjustments to the assets if we need to. This is where we may have our creative team involved as well. They may have uploaded images or assets for review. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to submit these assets for approval. So we'll click OK there. And now that I've submitted them for approval, they move into the next state of the workflow, which is review. And as a content marketer or author, if I was given the permissions or I was within that particular group within the organization, I can then move into the review space where I can see my two assets that have been made available. Now, I may want to look at a bit more information about one of these assets as well. So I can click through to the details tab here. And on this details tab, you can see I've got a quick view of the asset or a larger preview. You can see all of the different versions of an asset. So again, if I'm collaborating with a designer, they might have uploaded one or more versions of this asset as well. I'm able to work with that in an ongoing basis too. On the right-hand side, we've got our system tab. This is where we've got all of our asset information, all of the information that Content Hub stores about who created it, when it was, when it was created, those sorts of things. We can see whether any duplicates have been uploaded into the platform as well. So far, this is the only version of this asset that we have. With comments, this is where we can actually start giving some information back into this particular asset as well. So we can click on new comment and we can type in any new comment within the system as well. @tagging capability works inside of Content Hub in all of the commenting capabilities in there as well. So if you wanted to send a notification to an individual user, if you wanted to tag an entire group within your organization, you can do that within the commenting capability of Content Hub as well. I'll just quickly touch on digital rights management as well. One of the really great features of Content Hub is being able to actually align these assets to any rights profiles that you may have. So it's a really common occurrence for organizations to source their assets from maybe paid subscription sources, whether they have particular contracts with third-party agencies where you're only allowed to use assets for a particular amount of time. This is where you can put those rights agreements into Content Hub and align them to different assets. This means that users won't be able to use them for specific reasons or usage areas, whether that's traditional media rights or digital media rights. You can configure that all within Content Hub really quickly and easily. So in the middle here is where we have all of our main metadata of our particular asset that we're looking at here. So you can see we've got our main overview tab. This is where we've got our file name, our title. We've got our asset type in here as well that we aligned when we bulk uploaded into the system. And with that, I'm able to edit that page anytime I need to add particular information to it. I just refresh my page here because we have auto tagging capability in Content Hub as well. So this asset has been sent off to the AI engine in Content Hub, and it's returned a whole bunch of tags automatically for me. So you can see it's been able to pick up the road, sky, mountain, outdoor, some really relevant tags that I then don't have to go and map into the system myself. I can let the engine make my life a little more easy and more efficient in that sense. If I need to, and I need to add some more information to it, I can edit that. I can put in my own description for it if I need to. If I wanted to add another tag, I can add tags as well. So we know I'm really interested or I'm trying to do things around inspiration. So I've put in an inspiration tag. I'd maybe just want to add that as well. If I wanted to align it to my audience too, around need a boost or what have you, I can add any of that information after the fact as well. I can save that. And from an image analysis perspective from the AI engine too, is you can see that it's got a description in here that the AI engine has put forth and also highlighted or identified some primary colors in there. It's quite a dark style image, and it's picked up black and white as those primary colors within the image as well. So some really great features there to help you just lower that or bring down the speed of how I should say, increase how quickly you can get those into the wider dam for people to consume within your organization. So I've got those assets in there. I'm happy with them now. I then want to publish them through to the wider dam, so I can go through to the next step and approve it. If I wanted to send it back, I could reject that as well. So we're just going to go ahead and approve those assets into the dam. And so now they're available to be searched by any other user within the system. So we've finished that step. We're now going to go ahead and actually start creating our content. We want to start using those assets that we've created into some really rich content to publish out in our blog post. So we're going to come back into Content Hub here. We'll go into my workspace. So this is my workspace here. This is where I can see all of the content that I've created, all of the content that's sitting in different workflow states that I may need to work on that's been assigned to me as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new piece of content. And I've got my title all here ready to go. So we've got a how to stay motivated when making health changes. And we know that we're putting this in our Get Fit in 2020 campaign. And we're going to create a particular blog post here. So we're going to go ahead and create that. And we're going to move through into the editing page of Content Hub. So within here now, this is where we can start adding more details or the main bulk of content for this particular article that we're creating. So we're going to put that title in here. We've got a bit of quote text that we're going to put in. So we're going to put in our quote text. You can see we've got rich text capability in here as well. So if I need to, bold or italicize some of that information, change H1, H2s, those sorts of things, we can do that in the system as well. I'll click in my body text here and I'll just bring in some content. So we've typed away, we've added our content in. Now, this page of Content Hub as well allows you to have multiple concurrent authors at the same time, much like Google Docs. So you'll actually see other users actively working in content if they are logged into the system at the same time as well. So we've added some information here. We might save that. As a first step, we might be relatively happy with this. So we might say, yep, we're pretty good here. We might want to send this through to the first step of our workflow. So we're going to hit start on this. You can see that I've got my workflow sitting here on the top right hand of my screen, and it's in the working on it section. If I click on the information tab, you can actually visualize all the different workflow steps that are available for this piece of content. Something with Content Hub is you can have as many different types of workflows as you like. You can have parallel workflows and really build up that structure to make it match what your organizational processes need to be for a particular piece of content. So if that needs to go off to a particular legal department or another aspect of the organization's content team, you can adjust those workflows to make them relevant to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that through for approval to start with. So this will kick off through to the next team in the flow. You can see here that it's going through to our approvers team inside of Content Hub. I'm just going to bring up my other screen here. And now that I've actually done that, in terms of integrating with other systems, you can see here in my my Microsoft Teams environment here that we use at Sitecore, is that in my webinar Content Hub channel that I've created, I've actually got a notification that's come through that's been posted to say that I've actually submitted a new blog for review. I've got my title here. You can see that it's actually assigned to the approvers within there. We've got a due date set around this afternoon, and you can see that it's currently in progress state. Now, I can interact with various buttons here. This is something that you can work really well with your partners, someone like Engage Squared, to really come in and help you define what that collaboration and connectivity needs to be with something like a Microsoft Teams into the Content Hub ecosystem as well. So we'll come back to our review step here. So now as a reviewer, I might need to adjust some of this content. I might need to provide some feedback to the original content creator to make some adjustments to. So what I can do is I can click on edit here again. I can provide some feedback in this particular piece of content as well. So where I might look at a particular title here and say, well, you know, have a vision is not exactly inspiring or motivating. We can highlight that content. We can go ahead and add a comment to it. So make this title a bit more inspiring. So we can go ahead and add a particular comment in there as well. Really making sure we're keeping that alignment, we're keeping that audit history of all of our content as well. So where you do have some regulatory requirements within your regulation, to make sure you're understanding what changes have been made to a document or an article throughout its entire lifecycle process, or go back in time to see what it was at a particular point in time as well. That's where Content Hub does keep all of that historical information at hand for you. So we've got our comment in there. We may want to add an asset into this particular content from our DAM. So we may want to go ahead and add our image. So we can insert an asset directly from the DAM here that we may have uploaded before. You can see that I've got the two assets that I previously uploaded. I could filter and search for any other asset that I've got within the system too. So we might want to use our coffee mug that we've got in here as our inspiration. So we're going to go ahead and maybe adjust that. We think it looks pretty good, but we might just want to go ahead and crop this a little bit just to put a bit more of a focal point on this particular coffee mug. We've got a whole bunch of preset aspect ratio crops in there for all of the different popular social media platforms in there as well. So we're happy with that. We're just going to save that. We're going to generate a link, so we have all content delivery network capabilities to offload all of those assets in a really quick way, no matter where you are around the world. We'll hit select, and we've added in our particular asset into this document here already, which is fantastic. Now, as part of this, I might want to adjust my heading as well. So I do have a bit more of an inspirational heading that I think might make a little bit more sense. So we're just going to go ahead and make an adjustment to that, that heading. We also might want that just to be a H2. I think that's going to look a little bit better. Now, we do want to attach our other asset in here as well. So we can either upload at this point in time, or we can link in other assets too. So we're going to go ahead and maybe just pick our man walking down the street at this point in time as well. So we're going to add that as an attachment. We can add one or more of these as well to be leveraged however we need to. So as part of this, you have multi-version capability with Content Hub in there. So we can go ahead and maybe save this as a version. We want to keep that historical ability to see what has changed over time. We can really quickly and easily see that version history to see what's happened with that particular piece of content. We can select different versions of that. We can compare against those different versions as well, just to give a visual sense of what actually changed. We can see here that we've removed those two or added in those changes to our particular asset as we went along in our content creation process as well. So we're going to come back to this view now. There's a couple of other things that we need to apply to this before we actually publish it and make it go live. So over in the right-hand side here, we've actually got our strategy tab. So within our strategy tab, you can see we've got our type, but we need to align it to a specific audience. So we're going to add our audience here, and we're going to put that in our Need a Boost. We think that inspiration around our Need a Boost audience would work well. We need to pick our channel accounts that we want this to go through. So as part of your integration down into your downstream channels, this is where you might have it into something like Sitecore's experience platform, or you might be leveraging some social platforms. Any of those channels you can integrate into to push this content downstream. So this one's going to go to our retail website. So we're going to select that as our channel account, and we only want this available to the Australian region. We want this to be published tomorrow, and I think tomorrow at, tomorrow, and I think 8 AM is a pretty good time to put this live. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now we're pretty good to go. We've got a whole bunch of other fields that you can add and put metadata in here as well. You can add different metadata here to make it relevant to your organization as well. A lot of flexibility to really make sense to what works best for you. So we're happy with that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to approve that. So we can send that out to a connector or your integration that you may have to any of those downstream channels. If I bring back my window that I had before in my Microsoft Teams. So again, as part of your workflow, this might be where you want to start notifying your users that you've actually published some information. We had before our information that we had a blog for review, but now we've got one saying that, hey, Mick's actually published a new blog. Here's the name of it. We can see that I've actually published it to the retail website. We've got the URL if I wanted to go and actually visualize that, if I had that in my downstream channel, or we can have just some really quick and easy links that we can open that up to actually visualize through. So, you know, Microsoft Teams is a really fantastic collaboration tool set. These integrations into Teams really can be whatever you need them to be to really increase that efficiency. So if you need to have commenting pushed available inside of Microsoft Teams, you could put that capability in there as well. All of those comments could be pushed back into Content Hub and stored within the platform as well. So you've got that single point of alignment to the comments that were made against a particular review back to the single source of truth of that content, which is being Content Hub as a platform. So just coming back to my my page here, we're really happy with it. We can go back to our content. We can go and have a look at any of our reports. So we're gathering all of our analytics on those downstream channels where we have it. We can feed that information back into Content Hub, and we can start putting together our own dashboard reports. This is a dashboard report that I've put together, and we can see here based on engagement, we can see that my Get Fit in 2020 campaign is actually doing really well. I've got a really high level of engagement here. We can see all of my other campaigns that I've got running and where the engagement may be not as high. So that might be a focal point for me to actually align my strategy and put forth some more relevant content, adapt some of my content to try and just get that engagement level up. And so with that, that's a really quick and hopefully introductory view into a couple of aspects of Content Hub around the content marketing platform and what's available in there for you to use. Hopefully you get a bit of a sense here of how easy it is to actually work with the platform. I'm doing all of that in a single place, and we can potentially stop there. So I'm now going to hand over, I think, to Claudia to wrap some of this up.
Sorry, Mick, before we actually move across, there is a question that's come in from Lee. And the question is, what is the process and complexity of migrating an existing bank of assets to Content Hub?
Okay, yep, really good question. So there's a couple of ways of migrating in. So Content Hub actually has an Excel import capability. So if all your assets you can export out to a CSV, the system's actually smart enough to import all of those assets in from an Excel spreadsheet document. If there's public URLs of where those content or where your assets are currently living, Content Hub can actually basically suck those assets into the system as well. If it's more complex, you can do point-to-point integrations, either in a sort of a day-to-day sync, or it might be something like a one-off bulk import integration that you could do. So, you know, if you've got ERP systems or other legacy platforms in there as well, databases, what have you, there's different options that we can work with you to make that process as easy as possible.
Cool, thanks Mick. Hi everyone, my name is Claudia. I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so introducing you to the concept of change management and the role that it plays in helping you drive adoption of technology like Sitecore's Content Hub, or even things like Microsoft Teams within your business. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to quickly explain to you what change management is and how it relates to adoption of technology. There's a quote from ProSci, which are the leading body for change globally, that I think really emphasizes the essence or the importance of change. That quote is, if people don't change how they do their job, then ultimately we won't achieve what we set out to do from the beginning. At its core, change management for technology implementations is about managing and engaging with the people who are impacted by the change. So it's about talking to them about how things are done today, really understanding how they work, what processes are in place, what their pain points might be, and where efficiencies or there's new opportunities perhaps to adopt new ways of working could be done. So really you want to demonstrate the value of how things could be done tomorrow through great technology. If you think about the world we're living in at the moment, there's an enormous amount of change that people are working across every industry dealing with right now. So it's important to consider how you're going to introduce new technology to staff and plan the activities you're going to undertake to support successful adoption of that technology. Because success at the end of the day ultimately results from people adopting new skills and demonstrating new capabilities. So typically when any new major technology like Sitecore's Content Hub is introduced, it requires some amount of behaviour change from the user who's interacting with the platform. So from the very beginning, when you're thinking about investing in new technology or even boosting adoption of your current technology stack, it's important to consider both your technical landscape as well as your business or your people landscape, because you'll be influencing the way people behave or operate. So you'll need to consider the journey people will go on. That should include how you're going to move them through their current state, which is a state of where you're kind of, I guess, comfortable, and it's, you know, obviously you've got certain processes in place. This is key because you'll be asking people to move away from that comfort and familiarity, even as messy as their current processes might be to manage content or work together, that it's still a state of comfort for them. Through to a transition phase, where there's a phase of uncertainty, where they're learning new systems, they're adopting new tools, and they're trying to adapt to new ways of working. Through to your end state, which is your desired future state, where everyone is working in a new way and can achieve the outcomes that we set out from the beginning. So change management as a practical matter leverages the normal mechanisms within an organisation. So things like making sure you communicate with the impacted staff, leveraging executives or senior leaders for certain messages or to engage with different stakeholders, making sure you have the right training and coaching in place to help people move from that current state through a transition phase and to that desired future state. Because ultimately, organisational outcomes or business outcomes are the result of collective change by each individual. So we want people to move through the change together to avoid a situation where your future state includes multiple operating models, conflicting processes as well, which can ultimately result in frustration, less ROI, less benefit realisation, and an outcome we weren't expecting or really planning for. So some interesting stats about change management. 20 years of research by ProSci, who are the leading body for change management globally, has found that projects who invest in change management initiatives are 6 times more likely to meet or exceed objectives. 78% of projects were delivered on or below budget, and 69% were delivered on or ahead of schedule. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that the technology we use is only as good as the people behind it and the people who are using it. So it means that technology and better tools are really only the beginning of the story. So true value ultimately results from people adopting and embracing new skills and new processes. So while technologies like Content Hub or Microsoft Teams certainly go a long way to improving or helping businesses achieve real impact, the true value of any technical implementation should be measured against behaviour and what's known as the human factors of ROI. So they are 1, speed of adoption, so how quickly people are up and running with the new system. 2, ultimate utilisation, so how many employees are demonstrating buy-in and using the new technology. And lastly, proficiency. So are individuals performing at expected levels? Are they proficient? Are they confident with the new way of working? Ultimately, if you're investing in technology to create efficiencies, what you're trying to do is achieve impact. So you're trying to drive outcomes, you're trying to reach new audiences, you're trying to influence the way people interact with your brand. So it's important to consistently benchmark the success of your technology against how your people are using it in their day-to-day jobs. I just want to quickly shift gears now and talk about what we know about what can contribute to low technology adoption. We know through lots of global benchmarking reports, there are 5 top reasons for why employees resist change. The first is lack of awareness for the need to change. So if you're investing in new technology, you really need to talk about the why. What's in it for me? What's in it for the business? How does this fit into our broader strategic objectives? Second, impact on current job role. Third, the organisation's past performance with change. So we tend to carry a lot of baggage as employees and bias around how this new change will go based off how previous changes were implemented. Lack of visible sponsorship or support from managers, and lastly, job loss as well. So is a new automated system going to reduce headcount? So when you're implementing a new system, make sure you're thinking about these type of things and, you know, appeasing people, bringing them along for the journey. So I want to leave you with some questions that you should be considering as part of any new technology implementation. So those questions are, firstly, why are we changing in the first place? What's wrong with how things are done today? Why is the change happening right now? Are senior leaders truly committed to this change? And also to that point as well, how does this fit into the broader strategic objectives of the business? And lastly, what activities are you going to put in place to support your people to become more proficient in using this technology so that they can achieve real impact? Hopefully this has given you some really valuable insights into the world of change, as short it may be, as it may be. And thank you for listening, and over to you, Steve, for wrapping up.
Great, thank you, Claudia, and also Mick and Victoria. Appreciate the presentation and walking us through various different aspects of both Sitecore and also the methodology through which, or the questions to ask about how to actually get this working within your organisation. So this is great. Bear with me 2 seconds. I have a beautiful wrap-up slide, which hopefully now everyone can see. So really, I think it's worth sort of just reflecting on what the new normal is, and you know how technologies like Content Hub can actually help to empower working more effectively using digital technology. That's really, you know, a key theme around a lot of projects that we've been doing in recent months, but also over many, many years. How can technology actually help us to work more quickly, more efficiently, to manage the wealth of information and knowledge and data that we've got within our organisation? It's probably worth noting though, Content Hub's obviously more than just a dam. It can do marketing resource management, product content management, content marketing, integrate in with a range of different things. And I love how Mick showed the integration that he's built into Microsoft Teams to really demonstrate how easy it can be to streamline the process of managing those digital assets and integrating them in with various different campaigns in your public facing, also in your internal activities. So really fantastic. I really also love the idea of the way in which it can use artificial intelligence to capture information about the assets that you've got in your database, and really provide that intelligence to help you find the right information, quickly manage your campaigns, get access across the wealth of assets that you might have within your organization. Also worth noting, obviously, Content Hub, it's a SaaS application built on top of Azure. There's no need for actually building or customizing this. It's configuration only, which means that the speed to launch is really quite quick. Build that in with a really good change in adoption campaign and get a really quick transformation to new ways of working. And I think the ways in which we are collaborating in the new normal these days, staff working across lots of different locations, the need for proper collaboration technology is really at the forefront right now. And this is very likely to continue even if we start to return back to work, that we'll want to continue to work in the ways which we've become accustomed to. We're getting really good at working in collaborative ways within the organisation and collaborating using Microsoft Teams and other Microsoft technologies to share information internally. Getting a really good asset management tool that can hook into your marketing campaigns, do product content management and marketing resource management, I think is a really key next step for a lot of organisations that we're working with. So we've barely scratched the surface today. We really looked at some of the high level, an introduction into asset management and the capabilities of Sitecore's DAM. If you'd like more information from us, please feel free to reach out, get in touch. We'll be more than happy to run through a more detailed demo or touch on specific aspects of the technology. I'm very happy to share more. We'll follow up everybody with an email, so look out for that. And as I said, if you want to, please feel free to get in touch. But really, thanks to our friends from Sitecore for joining today. Special thanks to our sponsor, D3, our digital client engagement brand. Really grateful to have such a great audience and some excellent presenters today. So thank you everybody for joining, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.